Hello, Sandra.
Hello, Kay.
I'm
Um,
super excited to be here to interview you.
I was going to say exactly the same thing.
Oh, well, I appreciate you being here with us and sharing yourself because you are a recently new person into the world of hand analysis, and you've been reading hands and, more importantly, teaching classes. And I know there's going to be a lot of people who listen to this who are going to be inspired by the trajectory, basically, of your passion here and how you combine it with art. So, so what do you tell people that you do? What do you call yourself when people ask?
So I made the list shorter than the usual 50 things. But I'm an artist and a teacher and an intuitive hand reader is what I like to say.
I love that. And then when people hear you say that, intuitive hand reader, it sounds like that would be kind of fascinating. It was like, what is that?
Yeah, well, I just think hand analysis is like magic. And because I am a trained artist, and so I have developed a lot of intuition about shapes and lines and texture and color, that I can add that to it being more magical for people, because it really is magical.
Yeah, nice.
I do tell them that I base my readings on hand analysis and that I've studied with the American Academy of, hand analysis. So I do also add that.
Great. Yeah, when did you and Sandra Butler, your name will be posted with the YouTube and the link of how people can get in touch with you. But when did you start your training? How did you actually become interested in hand analysis? How were you called?
It happened many, many moons ago. I went to graduate school in Richmond, Virginia. I grew up in Montana, and there were so many wonderful metaphysical teachers there, and Edgar Cayce Foundation. And so it was just eye-opening for me to find out about hand reading and about numerology and astrology and Edgar Cayce. So that's where my interest really began. And I felt like I understood hands because I'm taught to be a seer, right? A visual person. So that was the first interest I had. And so I learned enough to read at parties and for friends and stuff for the last 30 years, mostly for entertainment. And then when the pandemic hit and I had just moved to Tucson, I'm thinking, I can't meet anyone, and I can sit in my studio all day and make work, which I love to do. But what can I really do and learn? And so that's where I found you online and started taking classes, and just built on the confidence and the information about hand analysis. So, and that was a year ago.
Yeah, just over a year ago, you started the intensive, which was a 3-month program. And I just looked up, yeah, January 19th, I think, is when you finished the level 1 and level 2. And then you went on to the gift markings and more, which you're in the middle of now, or almost finished, actually.
Almost, yeah. And lots of reading, and yeah, lots of reading and lots of looking at hands.
So how do you look at hands? So you've been we've all been kind of at home for over almost 2 years now. How have you looked at hands?
Photographs. Yep. And yep, how to take photographs, and then saying, nope, that's not going to work. Do it again. Yeah. So I've gotten better about instructions for taking photos of your hands but yeah, it's all been remote
Mhm.
and big learning curve for me as well.
Okay. So I know recently you've been able to come outside and be with a few people. And this kind of leads me to my next question. Is there a particular area that you're specializing in? Is there a particular area of reading hands that you really like?
Um, what I decided is because I have been a teacher for years and years, teaching art from preschool to adults, that my comfort level really is in teaching. And so I took that route to get into hand analysis by offering workshops in my in this wonderful shop called the Ninth House. It's a beautiful metaphysical shop in Tucson that has a gathering space. And so I offered an 8-hour workshop 4 in a row. And based on your life is in your hands. So I felt comfortable having a really great textbook.
Great.
And it was so fun. And I love teaching. And I love the curiosity of the students. And I think that's what is so much fun for me with teaching. So it went really well. And now I've started doing some weekend hand readings. Not as comfortable because I haven't done it for a long time. So yeah, and I'm going to continue to do that, as well as probably do another type of workshop in the new year.
Okay, great. So when you're, I love that you already started teaching classes. That's what I'm just wowed about in workshops. And I know for me, when I completed the intensive, I immediately started teaching a Heartlines workshop. And people love to hear about that. So I like what you said too. You find that students are curious, the people in your workshop. And I believe it was 4 2-hour workshops that you led over the course of weekends.
Mhm.
How do you tell that people are curious?
Oh, the questions they have,
Mm.
and coming back the next time, and more questions. And my husband has a simian, and so the fun too was them, and they even reported that sharing each other's handprints, sharing with each other about what they were learning, their similarities, their differences, was a really important part of the process, which I was so glad about, because I think that is what groups can really produce, is way more learning than what I can offer, learning from each other.
Yeah, people really do. That's fantastic. Yeah,
Mhm.
and good for you too to get yourself out there. So last weekend, I think you said you did a full day of hand readings. Was it
Mhm.
also at the shop where you're
Yeah.
where you touch the class? That's great. And so yeah, it is a little tricky because what did you find? I know sometimes students feel like, oh my God, I'm going to forget. Well, how am I going to remember things? And then I encourage people to have their database, their workbook there with them if needed to reference. Um, how do you feel in that department of when somebody sits in front of you and they put their hands and they open their hands in front of you? What's going on inside of you when they sit there in front of you?
Yeah, that is a good question. Um, I did an hour-long reading for someone a couple weeks ago, and she was wonderful, but she kind of had a glazed look over her face by the time she left. And so I decided that these would be 20-minute readings and just try to, focus on something. And usually they would tell me, which was kind of neat. They'd open their hands and tell me what they were curious about. So that was really helpful.
Like curious
Um,
in their life or curious about something in their hands?
Something in their hands.
Okay. Like,
Yeah,
what does this mean? This heartline, or what does this mean?
exactly. I have big scar or whatever. And it's like, well, and that is also your life lesson finger, you know?
Oh, on their life lesson. Uh-huh. Good.
Yeah, which was a right Jupiter, which I know all about, because that's mine. And yeah, she had a pretty big scar on it. So it was interesting to talk about that and how, moving forward with the life lesson and living her, I'm sorry, left Jupiter,
There you go.
living her passions. And so that was interesting. And I think too, I had practiced like, what is a 20-minute reading? And I feel like in that environment, especially, it's just enough information for someone to take and absorb and not completely overwhelmed. And, using your wonderful ideas about what are you going to take away from this was very, very good for me to remember.
Yeah, that's really great. Yeah, that's a good reminder too for people listening, is at the end of the reading is to ask. And you did that. What was your biggest takeaway? And that helps build your confidence, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And also it helps anchor in what the person really got, because then they can go and tell somebody else, here's a practical, tangible something or other, a result that I got in having my hands read by Sandra. And you just have to go have your hands read by Sandra.
Yeah. And hopefully some, kind of brightness about it. It was challenging too. And it because I'm not that experienced, and I know I'll get better. One of the things that really helped me was being able to have outside resources. So, for example, one woman said, well, do you see health issues in my hand? And I said, that's not really something I look at, but you have a really strong vitality line. And there's a great website on Stanford Medical that looks specifically at health issues on the hand. Or one person who I referred to your website for articles on particular things. So it was nice to not feel like I had to have all the answers.
Yeah. Yeah,
'Cause
that's too much pressure to put on yourself or for any hand reader. So good. Excellent. You gave yourself permission to not know everything, and to be and that's a great way to be available to your client also in where she is. So yeah, so speaking of your life lesson, so your fingerprints on your right thumb, I think I have your right thumb as a composite whorl, a loop, 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 loop on the rest of and then on your left hand, a loop on left thumb, and your left Jupiter is a loop tenet arch. So that's your lowest ranking.
Yeah.
A loop, loop, loop. So you're on the path of love, you lucky girl, the lover.
Oh, thank you, Sandra, for that.
And you have a big heart line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you're a real sweetheart.
Mm-hmm.
So has your life lesson, how have you noticed, or I'm assuming your life lesson has shown up, but how have you noticed your life lesson showing up, whether you've been preparing for leading a workshop or a class, or actually facilitating class? Have you noticed it come up?
It comes up all the time. It shows its beautiful head all the time. And my Jupiter's kind of low as well. I mean, I really noticed it when I was outlining my hand, but I've always had a real problem with self-confidence. And just, knowing that I can go do it. And I have a hard time seeing who I am because of this filter of like, well, you're not really, this voice that's like, you're not really gonna very good at that. And which I've kind of started laughing at that. It's like, yeah, shut up. So I work through that all the time. Like, yes, I do have enough information. Yes, I am a good teacher. I know how to articulate ideas. And so I always give myself pep talks.
Really, really, Sandra, that is so awesome. And thank you for being vulnerable, because that's part of your lesson too, with all those loops, is being vulnerable and to say, I have had a confidence issue, and that is totally related to Jupiter. And here's how I've overcome it, or here's how I'm overcoming it. It's a constant work to keep that life lesson muscle moving and shaking. So I really appreciate you sharing that, definitely.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a tough one. But then I, of course, have this fabulous composite whirl on my right thumb, which is so exciting because it is on and off and on and off. But I am very much a doer. I do. I could sit in my studio for hours and hours and hours and be happy as a clam, but I would be a clam. And what I realize is I really need to, go out into the world. And with my art, I've always had to, and being an artist is a really good teacher, because I can do in my studio, but it's not complete until it's out in the world. And there's a lot of rejection. And it's really taught me to not, that it's not personal, even though everything I make, of course, is personal. They're my babies. But it's been a very good lesson with my life lesson. So my self-confidence doesn't have anything to do with how other people view my work.
Mhm.
That's their priority. They can see what they want.
Mhm. That's a really great way to tie together your life, your composite whirl, and the left Jupiter, because the boundaries, and your passions, you're protecting your passion by giving others it's up to them. You're releasing that judgment and letting them, or just allowing them, and looking at that sense of rejection too, because all of us need to look at that. So
Yeah.
frustration. So frustration can show up, and it sounds like you've seen that with the composite whirl.
Mhm.
And then you just turn that into doing. It sounds like doing.
Well, I usually take a day.
Okay, when you get really frustrated.
After like a rejection, and it's like, I am so disappointed. I just did. I worked so hard, and they said no. And so then I allow myself now to, take the day and cry a little, garden, go for a really long walk, whatever it takes, and just be able to sit with that. And I think it ties in with my love, life lesson too, is feel those things. And I haven't always done that. And so I feel like on this path of love, which I'm so grateful that I know it now, is that self-love is the way to master this whole thing. And taking time to go, you know what? Ouch.
Yeah.
That hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Because that's a form of acceptance, is I'm not rejecting the feeling. I'm accepting the feeling, and ouch, I feel hurt. And I'm going to give myself space to feel. And so good for you. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And then it's back to do.
I know. Well, another in the composite world, you had 6 students, right, in your classes?
Mhm.
And that was all the room you made available, right? It was limited to 6
Correct.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good. We got to pat ourselves on the back for that
Yay.
one, for sure.
And I'm really thankful for the Melissa, who owns the shop, who I was able to read her hand, and she has a composite whirl on her right thumb and a tinted arch on her left Jupiter.
Same as you. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah,
Slow coasters.
it was so cool. And so because I have that experience and she's an entrepreneur and she has built this fabulous business. So I'm going to be a regular reader there in the new year.
Fantastic. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
that's
excited.
fantastic. That's great. Um, so what challenging experience have you shared, and you may want to use it, shared it in, when you've been in a reading or teaching a workshop, but something related to hands, what challenging experience have you had that you could share with our listeners who might have a similar experience to help them move through it very quickly or have a new way to look at it, the situation?
I there's a lot of them. Um, I think coming up with, I mean, for me, taking a breath and realizing what is happening. So one woman I read for, she was a butterfly, all loops. And and I asked if she had any questions at the end, and she said, well, what about love? What about, you know, love in my life? And um, threw me off for just a minute until I said, you are love.
Mm.
You are in the school of love. And the more that you love yourself and allow yourself, then all the love that you want is yours. And so, and I'm not sure if that was even right, but it felt right. Um, Instead of having a specific, well, you're going to have a romance next week, tall, dark, and handsome.
Mhm. No, that's a beautiful answer. And that's so accurate. Yes, absolutely. Very good. Very intuitive. And you've learned that and you're learning that about yourself. And so that's also a reflection of how you're integrating with that self-love yourself.
Exactly. So it's easier when it's something I understand in myself. So yeah, I think doing and reading and I had a little technical glitch too with my Square machine taking payments. And I'm horrible at asking for help, which I should have, but I had set it up. But anyway, that's another technical thing. I really appreciated your list and for going to an event. It was very helpful.
Good.
And
Yes.
I did a raffle for a free reading. And synchronistically, I had a woman signed up for a 12:30 reading and she wasn't there. And I waited 5 minutes and there were other people. So I put someone else in her spot. And when I did the drawing, she won.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And,
Aw,
yeah, I thought that was really sweet. The
good.
universe at its best.
So, yes, that list of events, that's a great list, isn't it? I've added to that list over the years of doing events. So I'm glad that you found that helpful.
Yeah, having that structure and double checking is super helpful for me. Yeah. And my Saturn.
Nice. So, one resistant point I've heard from students too is, I love that you've addressed confidence right up front. And because sometimes that can really block students from putting themselves out there. So what advice would you give to people who might experience that resistance? Is like, what if they reject me? What if they, all those things that can come up to keep somebody from actually looking into the hands of somebody.
Mm. And there's such a long list of things. But when I was thinking about this, someone many years ago said, I've heard that after you die, you like have this film that you watch, this like replay of your life. And I started thinking, wow, if you live a long time, it's going to be really long. I wonder if there's popcorn. And then I'm thinking, I wonder if there's a fast forward button. But what it really struck me is like, make it interesting. Like, dang. And to me, it helps to think of it that way. It's like, if I'm going to watch an 80-year rerun, it kind of helps to be a little more detached, but I'm going to make it interesting. And so why not have naked dance parties in my house? And like every once in a while, I'll just like make funny faces at the sky. Just there should be entertainment value if it's going to be that long.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah. I
So
really,
yeah, don't make your rerun boring.
mhm. Yeah. I really appreciate that about you too, Sandra. I notice a consistency and, making things fun and also going deep. I've seen you go deep into, an experience that you're having or a dear friend who's been recently sick and just being with that to, let's just make this interesting.
And it is.
Mhm.
And I just feel so blessed that, and I think I've always had just noticed things, and the mundane things are some of the most interesting things that a lot of people just overlook, like the shape of spider webs. And I was at this estate sale one time and there was this hanging basket on the patio and there was a bird sitting in it. And I thought, is that a real bird? And yeah, it was. And so I just sat from a distance and watched it and watched like lots of people go by and never even notice this incredible phenomena or whatever experience.
Mm.
Uh, so I feel very lucky to notice things and be able to experience them.
Yeah. I love that. I love the spider web experience too, and noticing the bird, Indra's web, Indra, Indra's web. I don't know if you've heard of that. And it is like a spider web. And if you've seen a spider web too, when it's wet, then each of the glistening spots reflect the next one to it. And then the next one and the next one and the next one. So each of us, I like to think of as glistening lights. And just you and I being here together and the people who are listening, there's a reflection and then it's just beaming. It continues to beam around the world and around the universe, and it makes a difference. So
I love that. And yeah, every beautiful little thing is such a great metaphor for, just being on the planet right here, right now. Yeah, Tucson's amazing because I feel like there's almost more life happening underground with the bugs and all these incredible insects than there is on top. And so as far as going deep, I mean, that is really profound to me because it's an unseen world to us until they come up and then we go, ah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great that's a great metaphor too, because we're taking our clients down underground to look at the stuff, to look at the shadow. I call it shadow boxing sometimes, but to get down there and look at the shadow and to make it our ally or to see it as an ally. It's our ally in disguise because that subconsciously blocks us from seeing the light. So I love that
Oh,
analogy.
absolutely. John Handy used to say that stepping stones were stumbling blocks in disguise, but I like to flip it. Stumbling blocks are stepping stones in disguise.
I love that. Great.
Yeah.
Well, so is there any other advice that you would give to new students of hand analysis?
Yeah. For me, courage is curiosity. And so if I don't follow the curiosity, I don't have any courage. So what would it be like if I had 12 people in the next class, so stay curious.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and for me, and maybe it's a neat thing about a life lesson of not having a lot of self-confidence, is it's going to be what it is. And I'll do my best, and I'll have courage, and I'll be really nervous. And here we go. It's not going to be a boring rerun.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Nervousness is actually excitement. It's an excitement. Oh, and yep,
Yes.
it's not going to be a boring rerun. Excellent. Well, what intentions do you have for your hand analysis practice? If you call it a business, what intentions do you have for the next 6 months?
So besides wanting to like build a gypsy wagon, which I think would be really cool for the back of my bike, this rider, besides that, I'm going to do more weekly hand readings at the ninth house, and look at some other workshop opportunities. And one of the women in my workshop works for this amazing place called Canyon Ranch. And it's like this spa thing. And they have a metaphysical department.
A whole metaphysical department at the Canyon Ranch.
Yes. And I thought everyone should have a metaphysical department. Yes. So I'm going to write them a letter tomorrow.
All right. Awesome. Oh, they're going to love you. That's fantastic. Okay, well, good. Well, you have the sky's the limit, really. I mean, it's infinite possibilities. You have a wonderful well of opportunities there in Tucson. I love it.
I do. I'm so blessed, and I'm so grateful to you and your, American Academy of Hand Analysis. I've just grown tremendously, and I just keep. And I guess like life lessons do our whole life. I mean, it marinates, and I see it come up all the time with just different experiences I have, especially the composite world. And I just kind of get tickled by it. It's like, yeah, there it is. So I'm grateful so much for your teaching and mentorship.
Well, I feel that way for you. It's a blessing to have you have come along into my life. It's amazing. I feel so fortunate. You're a treasure. I wanted to ask you too, have you noticed do you plan to tie your art with the hand reading together in any kind of capacity?
I already kind of have, but I'm not sure. I'm going to just let it be organic, but yeah. I've done some handprints on photosensitive fabric, which is very cool. And done some stitching around that. And I know it's going to definitely influence each other. And so I'm kind of excited to see how that goes. I try not to be a dictator with my artwork, because I feel like I have a plan and I have a drawing, and it's going to have to stand. And so I have structure to start with, and then it goes like, no, I'd let it have a voice. Okay. And that way it's so much more interesting to me. And I feel like I can be a vessel for just other influences that come in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. Yet to be seen.
Yes, great. Well, how can people contact you if they have questions?
So I am Sandra Butler Studio at Gmail. And I have a website that I'm working on still, but it's up, and it has all my hand analysis classes, and where I'll be or how to get a hold of me for a private reading, as well as some art.
Great. Yeah, I'll be putting the links on with the video.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. All right. Well, fantastic. Well, is there anything else that you would like to share with our amazing listeners out there who are still with us?
Oh, Um, Eric Fromm, one of my favorite authors, his quote is, "Creativity requires the courage to let go of certainty."
Mm,
And I love that as far as diving into this incredible world of hand analysis is got to let go of some certainty.
mm, yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hmm. All right. Well, we will be in touch very soon. And thank you very much. And for anyone listening, if you have questions for Sandra or myself, just click on the links and let us know what you think, what your questions are, and one of us or both of us will get back to you. Thanks,
All
Sandra.
right. Thank you.